This is it. Welcome to Behind the Scenes with the OGs. Got Goldee and DJ Hard. Welcome to Behind the Scenes with the OGs. I'm Goldee, your West Coast host. Got my sidekick, DJ Hard, Sweet Home, Louisiana. We back again with a dynamic show. And we, we sticking to the script. And we're dealing with reparation. We're gonna see it through until from the beginning to the end. And we picking up the cry back from what was that brother name? Murray in the beginning that started reparation.
I think it was John Conyers.
John Conyers, you know what I'm saying? We picking up his stride. And so today we're gonna deal with, we have 3 screen shares we want to present. And the first one is gonna be dealing with the reparation in Detroit. We standing strong here in California, Detroit. You know what I'm saying? I got fam, grandkids and stuff in Detroit. And open the door, pushing the line, you know what I'm saying, just as well and hard as we're getting down here in California for y'all. So also we have Nikole Hannah. She was on the committee dealing with reparation, and we're gonna have a screen share and see, where they at.
Yeah. She wrote the 1619 project too.
Okay. And our last screen share gonna be with Dane Holloway. He gonna give us some points on, what's going down to like the pros and the cons, what's going on with reparation. So that's what's happening. That's our subject for today. And I hope we have a very attentive audience, because the subject of reparation is so very important, because it is a debt. I don't know why I'm hoarse, but it seems like I'm hoarse. But it's a debt, that, needs to be paid for a reason, to upgrade our condition as a people, as a race. And, so this is why, it's people have to understand the importance in reparation. You got to put reparation on your mind. You know what I'm saying? You got to
put it on the conversation.
You got to put it in, you got to talk to others in regards to it, and don't have no fear. You know what I'm saying? In your mind and in your heart is for us pushing the line to get what a debt, that's, is due paid to our people. You know what I'm saying? People are still living off of, our 40 acres and our mule that, was stole from us. People today are still living off of it. And so this is the reason, one of the reasons, they need to do what they supposed to do. They know that our people are old, and our people should realize that and don't feel like it ain't nothing about, it's not no handout or nothing. It's what you call a debt. You know what I'm saying? And all our time, after slavery, and the promise, to be for our ancestors to be paid 40 acres and a mule, still to this day, we have been denied, and that's causing our people to be on the level economically, that's causing our people to dominate, the population of the prison system, that's causing our people to dominate the graveyards. So, this we have to, this is why, you know, understand that this should be on your mind 24/7. And you know what I'm saying? You should have the heart, you know what I'm saying, to want this just to be righted, because, you know what I'm saying, that's what it's going to take for us to have a better state of living. What's up with it, DJ Hart?
Well, man, look, going back in American history, you find out that when it came to land distribution, when they had the land grants, settling United States of America, they didn't equally distribute that, man. They didn't give none of that to us, all right, including our 40 acres and a mule, man. So we're fighting for the debt that was owed to our ancestors still today, and that's why people need to put it into that conversation so we can move this thing forward, man. Because and the way I feel about it, we need reparations now.
Well, it's due to us now. Of course we need it now. No, we've been needed. You know what I'm saying? It's now, you know, it's past, you know. So, but now, you know, people got to understand, you know, after slavery, you know, when they start, you know what I'm saying, like start taking, you know, our property and damaging, destroying our communities and stuff, and you know what I'm saying, running us out of, you know, our communities and overtaking them, you know what I'm saying, and our businesses and stuff like that. All that stuff happened during, you know what I'm saying, the Jim Crow era. You know, well, it started like before the Jim Crow, but for us of today, you know what I'm saying, that's when we, you know what I'm saying, we start feeling the effects of, you know, leaving the plantation, you know what I'm saying, to the next yard, which is, you know what I'm saying, what's happening to us today and where we at today. So, you know, it's just that reparation, man, y'all got to understand. Our people need to really understand that this debt has to be paid, you know what I'm saying, in order to at least put us, you know what I'm saying, on an equal playing ground, because our blood, sweat, and tears, our ancestors' blood, sweat, and tears, and our blood, sweat, and tears. Don't think, you know what I'm saying, that our blood, sweat, and tears, is not a part of all this stuff, even from the time of slavery to now.
Well, I want to say that if you're in California, they got AB 3121 going on, and they're accepting your testimony. You know, so you just got to get involved. You can contact CJEC, that's California for a Just and Equitable California. Get in touch with them. They also, you know, available information in a lot of different places. So just look for them and get updated.
Yeah, but no, what our people need to do is just elevate, you know, so saying they mentality as far as, you know, saying trying to be on top of something that's very important to us. You know, I know in this day and time, you know, saying it's a lot of, everything is like out of order, you know, saying with people, you know, saying, and the world within its own self. You know, and everybody is seeing and feeling the effects of the turmoil that we dealing with. You know what I'm saying? And it's not, things is no longer, you know what I'm saying, under the table. You know, we seeing this shit, and you know, like watching the movie, you know what I'm saying, our clear view is played out right in. Then our frame of minds, you know what I'm saying, we recognize what's really going on. So
yeah,
we got to step up.
Yeah, that's what we're going to be getting into with our screen share coming up next. You know, I want to thank everybody for watching behind the scenes, and I want to thank all of my fans for supporting my music too. I've been doing all right with the music, and everything is moving forward, and so we're going to take it to the next level.
Straight like that. All right, so we're gonna proceed on with a screen share. We're gonna kick game on that, soon after we check them out, and kind of go through them and see what's up. All right, so we'll be back in 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Welcome back to Behind the Scenes with the OGs. All right, we're going to move on to our screen share. This is a reaction to reparation and resolutions in Detroit. It's Big D. Okay, let's go.
The question of whether or not Detroit residents are owed reparations is being taken up by the city council and soon enough by the voters. CW50's Chris Walker explains.
Detroiters could see a question on the November ballot in regards to creating a reparations committee for the purpose of building racial equity for Black residents.
America has the ugly history that it picks and chooses when they want to adopt you. Reparations, absolutely, it's about money, but it's bigger than money. It's about repairing the harm, repairing the trauma, repairing the oppression.
Detroit City Council President Pro Tem Mary Sheffield introduced the proposal that was passed unanimously by council members Tuesday. Sheffield said in a statement, Black Detroiters are owed and the commission will study ways to create generational wealth. The proposed question reads as follows. Should the City of Detroit establish a reparations committee to make recommendations for housing and economic development programs that address historical discrimination against the Black community in Detroit? The measure is receiving some criticism from Michigan Southern Christian Leadership Conference President, Reverend Aaron McCarthy.
My recommendation for everybody right now, and I'm going around and saying it, we don't need to vote on that right now. Right now, we need to give a pass on that until we get something that's more concrete and that's directed towards reparations towards the Black folk.
Reverend McCarthy is telling CW50 he believes the idea of reparations is being taken too lightly and more needs to be done to ensure restorative justice for Black Detroiters.
Yes, we deserve to have a committee, but I think that committee should be elected just like any other body, just like the city council was elected, just like the charter commission was elected. I think it should be elected too, and it should be elected from a body of Detroiters.
The resolution now moves to the Election Commission for consideration. If the measure passes the commission's legal review, then it will be sent to the county clerk for ballot placement. Reporting in Detroit, Chris Walker, CW50, News at 10.
I don't agree with the Reverend. I think, somebody with a better insight should be speaking, you know what I'm saying, on this than him, because you know, so far they were speaking of, you know, dealing with the land, upgrading people, you know what I'm saying, better housing and stuff like that. I know that money would have to be involved in that too, you know what I'm saying? But the reverend seemed like he talking about some type of programs and shit developing and stuff like that, you know, to throw it off.
Yeah,
that's in it.
Yeah, that's a big delay, you know, that he's calling for. You know, we're gonna go through the process of having an election and everything. I don't think the state of California took that route. Okay.
They didn't take that route.
Okay. In other words, I think they got.
I remember another preacher, a preacher friend I got. That was his suggestion too, Marshall. Brother Marshall.
Yeah, well,
you know, so now I see this is the second preacher, you know what I'm saying, that suggested that ballot. So that showed me right there. They framed the line.
The only thing that I be thinking about is like when you go for an election, then that's based on popularity, money. You got to spend money on the election, man. To me, that's a lot.
It's still the same. It's Democrat, Republican. You know, it's the same way of get down. It's nothing changed, man. They locked into that, man. You know what I'm saying? No, we ain't trying to keep on. You know, our people voting. We against our people voting already, man. Because you know what I'm saying, when we voted, we don't win. It don't benefit. It don't help us. It work against us. So that's why the preacher's frame of mind, man, he locked in on that dumb shit, man. That's all it is too.
Well, anyway, I haven't found any evidence that the people that's working on reparation was elected. They was appointed because they was experts in that field. It wasn't based on their political power or wealth or anything like that. All right. It's based on their knowledge and expertise on this particular subject. Because if you open it up for election, you can have somebody running for the thing that don't know anything about the issue. He's just popular.
Well, California picked it up, man, because it goes all the way back to the brother that's, I think he spent 40 years trying to push the line on reparation. It goes back so far. California is pushing the line, and we're not trying to go through the court system or you know, voting system, you know, saying on that level, because we already know that don't work. What we need reparation needs to be paid right now. It's been many years.
Decades, man.
Yeah.
Decades.
Yeah. So it's talking about putting it on a ballot and all that. It's just some bump.
It's another delay. All right, we're not going to delay. We're moving on to our next screen share. All right, y'all hang on. We're going to be coming right back. I got a little music video for you. I hope you enjoy the tune. We'll be right back shortly.
2 minutes and 2 seconds.
I'm going my way, baby. Hello, my baby. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm going freeway. Trying to make my way. There's an accident stuck in me. Trappin. I'm on my way to see you today. I just wanna say I'm on my way, baby. I just wanna say I'm on my way, baby. Love it when you tell me you miss me. Love it when you tell me you need me. Love it when you tell me you wanna see me. Love it when you tell me you love me. just wanna say I'm on my way, baby. I just wanna say I'm on my way, baby.
On my way today at djhard1.bandcamp.com.
Welcome back to Behind the Scenes. So we're going to move on to our next screen share, which is No Atonement, No Repair. It's by Nikole Hannah Jones, a very brilliant Black sister, giving us some her knowledge and the committee that she's on, working with slavery and reparation. Let's go.
And she wrote one of the New York Times bestseller, 1619 Project.
Yeah.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As we continue our Juneteenth special broadcast, we turn now to Nikole Hannah Jones, the Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times journalist who created the 1619 Project. In March, Nikole Hannah Jones addressed the United Nations General Assembly as the UN marked the International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade.
Good morning. It is my deepest honor to speak before you today on this day of international remembrance of the victims of the transatlantic slave trade. I have dedicated my life's work to excavating the modern legacy of transatlantic slavery, and so my thoughts are never far from what has become the defining subject of my journalism, and what I believe continues to be the defining undercurrent of life in the Americas, the legacy of slavery. I stand before you, the great-great-grandchild of enslaved men and women born here in the United States of America, part of the millions who lived and died under the brutal, immoral, and inhumane system of chattel slavery that existed for the first 250 years of the land that would come to think of itself as the freest nation in the history of the world. We gather here to mark the global trade that took some 15 million beloved human beings across the Atlantic in the hulls of barbaric ships, the largest forced migration in the history of the world, one that would reshape the entire Atlantic world and transform the global economy. We must never forget the scale and the depth of the horrors that people of African descent suffered in the name of profit. Profit that enriched the European colonial powers and built the nascent economy of the United States. We must never forget how the systems of slavery collapsed only to be reborn in other models of violent and racist economic exploitation, such as what we benignly call Jim Crow in the United States, but what is more aptly called apartheid. But on this solemn day of remembrance, the looking back cannot be and should not be solely defined by African descended people's enslavement. Just as defining, just as important to remembering the legacy of the transatlantic slavery are the stories of Black resistance that would, more than any other force, lead to slavery's collapse in our hemisphere. No people voluntarily submit to their enslavement, and by obscuring the role of Black resistance in our collective rememberings of the transatlantic slave trade, we continue to do the work of those who sought to justify slavery by stripping us of our collective humanity. People of African descent resisted their enslavement from the moment of their capture. They resisted on the long walk from the interior of Africa to the coast. They resisted in the castles before being dragged out to the waiting ships. They resisted so frequently on the water that slave ships had to be specially designed to try to prevent mutiny. The ocean became the final resting place of thousands of Africans who resisted by choosing a final swim with the ancestors over enslavement in a strange land. As we remember our brutal enslavement by people who believed themselves to be civilized, even as they tortured, abused, and murdered other human beings for profit, for sugar for their tea, for molasses for their rum, for cotton to wear, and for tobacco to smoke, we must remember most the fierce Black radical tradition of resistance that did not begin with anti-colonialism efforts on the continent or with civil rights movements in the United States and other places, but with, as the scholar Cedric Robinson argued, the Chimarrones of Mexico, who ran away to indigenous communities or formed their own fugitive communities known as palenques. We must remember Yanga, who led a community of fugitive Africans and fought the Spaniards so fiercely that they won their status as a free Black settlement. We must remember Brazil's quilombolas, including Palmares, a fugitive Black community that would endure for 90 years in the Portuguese colony that would import more Africans into slavery than anywhere else in the Atlantic world. We must remember the Maroons of British and French Guyana, Cuba, and the United States, and the Bush Negroes of Suriname, who fought against their oppressors for 5 decades, as they were attempting to re-enslave them. We must remember the revolts of enslaved people in Jamaica in 1690, in New York City in 1712, Queen Nanny in 1720, the Stono Rebellion in 1739, and Tacky's Rebellion in 1760. We must remember the successful uprising of enslaved people, the most successful uprising of enslaved people in the history of the world, the Haitian Revolution, where enslaved people rose up and defeated 3 mighty colonial empires, becoming the first nation in the Americas to abolish slavery and establishing the world's first free Black republic, an audacity that the Western world has punished Haiti for ever since. We must remember revolts in Barbados in 1860, the Baptist War in Jamaica in 1831, and Nat Turner's rebellion that same year in the United States, as Black people attempted to make manifest the words of Patrick Henry, the famed American revolutionary who proclaimed, "Give me liberty or give me death," even as he enslaved African human beings for profit. We must remember freedom fighters such as Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass and Gabriel Prosser. We must remember that it was not merely the Enlightenment ideas, some reckoning amongst white abolitionists, that brought the end to the system that had enriched colonial powers, but that abolition was propelled by constant revolt that forced colonial powers to realize, as scholar Mary Redford wrote, it would remain more expensive and dangerous to maintain the old system than to abolish it. Black people were actors in their own freedom. Obscuring and marginalizing stories of Black resistance serves to justify the hypocrisy of colonial Europe and the United States by insinuating that had slavery been so bad, surely African peoples would have fought harder against it. These are lies of omission that in the absence of truth warp our collective memory. Resistance, therefore, must be central to any remembrances of the transatlantic slave trade and must, therefore, be connected to the ongoing resistance movement in the fight for Black liberation across the globe. I stand here before you today, a recipient of that tradition of resistance. My father was born in a little shack in 1945 on a cotton plantation in Greenwood, Mississippi. He was born into a family of sharecroppers, the violently enforced system of labor exploitation that emerged at the end of slavery. He was born into a strictly apartheid state, one where Black people could not vote, could not use the public library, could not attend schools with white children, and were lynched for things such as starting a union, walking into a room where a white woman was alone, failing to get off of the sidewalk fast enough in deference to a white person, or the greatest crime of all in the American South, having the audacity to be a financially prosperous Black person. In Greenwood in the 1940s, life was so devastating that Black children could be put to the fields as early as the age of 3 to start carrying water to workers. So when my father was 2 years old, my grandmother, Arlena Paul, a Black woman sharecropper, packed a suitcase and loaded her 2 young children on a northbound train and escaped the apartheid of the American South. My grandmother had a 4th grade education, and she would spend the rest of her life as a domestic and a janitor. But that single act of resistance, leaving the racial caste system of the American South with nothing but the determination that her own children would not pick cotton like she had, like her parents had, like her enslaved grandparents before her had, set in motion the events that would lead me to stand before this distinguished body today, addressing this most esteemed convening representing all of the nations of the world. Hers was an act of resistance that mirrored those of millions of enslaved Black people who resisted every day in ways big and small. She, like our ancestors, resisted in order to plant the seed for freedom and opportunities that she would never see for herself. And it is this history, this understanding, that leads me to argue that the defining story of the African diaspora in the Americas is not slavery, but our resistance to it. Of people determined to be free in societies that did not believe they had a right to freedom. We must acknowledge this history as the legacy of slavery can be seen all around us. Today, the descendants of slavery fight to resist their conditions in the societies that once enslaved them. They suffer the highest rates of poverty, the highest rates of incarceration, the highest rates of death, and the highest rates of violence. And the tradition of resistance continues in protest against police violence and inequality from Brazil to Cuba to the United States. But we, the people of the African diaspora, should not have to find ourselves still resisting. It is long past time for the European colonial powers, for the United States of America, to live up to their own professed ideas, to become the great and moral nations that they believe themselves to be. It is not enough to simply regret what was done in the past. They are obligated to repair it.
Like
As I
that.
stand before representatives of the countries that once enslaved African peoples and the peoples who were once enslaved, as we collectively remember this day, the way for me to honor those who toiled and died and fought is to say this clearly and without flinching. It is time for the nations that engaged in and profited from the transatlantic slave trade to do what is right and what is just. It is time for them to make reparations to the descendants of chattel slavery in the Americas. This is our global truth, the truth we as human beings understand with stark clarity. There can be no atonement if there's no repair. It is time, it is long past time for reparations for the transatlantic slave trade and all the devastation that it has wrought and all the devastation that it continues to reap. I thank you very much for your attention as we all remember this crime against humanity together. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a proper speech.
Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times journalist who created.
Yeah, man. She's talking on the international level, man. So I be wondering why all of these politicians have nothing to say about reparations. It's being spoken on the local level, on the state level, and an international level. So, man, I mean,
Well, she actually broke it down, you know what I'm saying? As far as Africa go, you know what I'm saying? She was like 15 million people, you know what I'm saying, was put on slave ships and, you know what I'm saying, brought to the Americas and shit like that. The Atlantic slave trade, you know what I'm saying, that shit was just all come up all about money, you know what I'm saying? for them white folks and shit. So yeah, she broke it down, you know what I'm saying, to exactly, you know what I'm saying, who reparation is due to. And now she's speaking of the 15 million that was bought over here in the transatlantic slave trade, you know what I'm saying. You know, and that's to the Americas, you know.
Yeah, she also highlighted that you know, I guess what I would say she was referring to is the educational system obscuring the history of Black resistance in America. You know, that information has been provided to us, and so it looked like, you know, if that information is not there, maybe people will. That's what's making people so complacent, man, because they might be feeling like they're alone. But you are not alone, because Black resistance have been all over the place in America.
Black resistance, just as she stated, started from the beginning of us coming into contact and being, young, someone saying, caught up into slavery. We have resisted. The Americans, we always motherfucking resisted, you know? And so, yeah, you're right about that too. And that's what she was saying. She definitely broke that down, and she definitely, yeah, got that, stressed that point. And like her grandmother said, she was saying her grandmother, the reason they had left the South, you know what I'm saying? My mama was born in the South too, and her mama, you know what I'm saying, they was from Texas, but her mama, that's the same reason that my mama and them end up in California, for the same exact reasons, that because it was also during the 40s, because that's what she's speaking of. And so, yeah, I can relate to that part right there too.
Well, I know my mother and father, they migrated to California during the Great Black Migration. And so they didn't tell me why they left. I mean, they didn't share that history. But by me studying history, I found out that they was fleeing the apartheid type conditions in the South, and they was looking for more opportunity and better job opportunities, and that's why they came to California. And I know that my father was successful during his life in finding good employment.
Well, yeah, that's right. And that, just like she was saying, I think she was saying her daddy or granddaddy was very successful, you know what I'm saying, back at that time also. You know, he through all the racism and stuff that was going on, just like she said, the Jim Crow and all that, he was still successful at that time. And many of our people were successful. We had our own businesses, and you know, and a whole system. And also, she was speaking on in New York back in 1712, New York, and she spoke on the Haitians Revolution. She mentioned Nat Turner, Patrick Henry, who's that, I remember that, give me liberty or give me death. He actually owned slaves too. But his slogan, that was his slogan, give me liberty or give me death. And that was a slogan from a slave.
Yeah. Well, I know Nat Turner was a very interesting character way back in the Gap. You know, and none of that history was taught in elementary school, junior high, or high school for me. All right.
Or college. Yeah. That's Black history. And
yeah.
No.
I didn't learn this. I didn't learn his name till quite a bit later, man. I think it was probably a conversation that I had with some brothers had already read a book or something on Nat Turner, and they
So
were
you,
putting it down to
some
me.
revolutionary brothers, you know what I'm saying? You heard that it could have been from Panthers. You know, it could have been from us organization back then in the 70s, you know what I'm saying, when our people was on a revolutionary kick, you know, getting that revolutionary knowledge and information. That's how, you know what I'm saying, our history, that's for people in our age bracket. That's when we started learning about our true history.
Yeah, and we got one more screen share to go, and we're going to dig into that. I think you're going to like it. Hang around, and we're going to be sharing some more information with you from Dan Calloway.
2 minutes and 2 seconds. We'll be right back. Got that see how pretty that little bike is all these come out, the Lolos come out, get those mini bikes, get them powder coated. That paint you seen on that pink one, that was pinkish orange, that was like a powder coat paint on that bike. Get out like that.
They're down near 120th.
This is the races. No, that's in Long Beach. Oh, that was the most recent downtown takeover. You see how them people? Oh, that was me right there. Back that up.
Here it come again.
Right there.
All right. Whatever it is.
Okay, we back. And we're going to move on with Dan Calloway. Why slavery reparation cases are ignored and used only for political jargon. So let's proceed. Dan Calloway.
It is interesting to me that under our Constitution and otherwise, that we compensate people if we take their property. Shouldn't we compensate people if they were property sanctioned by the state, sanctioned by the state, sanctioned by the state? So I believe that is a conversation that's worth having. And I see that as right and wrong. I don't see that as political or non-political.
Nobody alive today in 2019 was a slave back then, so what are we getting paid for? Who's getting paid? Why are they getting paid? It's no more than a campaign promise.
Oh man, that's like something out of the Republican playbook, man.
From Democratic hopefuls trying to get some kind of attention out here.
ABL. Listen, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. They provide economic restitution to those people. Now, if I came into your house, Mr. ABL, and I stole $1,000 from you and then I died, or if I stole $1 million from you and then I died, would you say, oh, well, Reese died, so the money doesn't matter anymore? No, you would go talk to my children, because my children are still living off the benefits of that $1 million.
Just because somebody's granddad stole something doesn't mean I'm responsible for it. If somebody's granddad was a serial killer and then they find out 100 years later, you don't go after the kids and say, okay, you got to go to jail now, or you got to pay back some money because of what your grandfather did. It makes no sense. You know who did it. You should have been able to catch them while they were alive, punish them while they were alive.
We want to focus on is the economic harm that was done to black people. If we really break down what slavery was, people were brought from across the water to work, and that was free labor. So what we have is generations and years, hundreds of years of systematic discrimination and shutting out of economic access to black people, and that has to be repaid.
If we're going to blame the government of the USA, even though nobody's alive wait a minute, even though nobody's alive right now, 2019, that was alive back then, and then the thing about it is, who's going to pay it? You're talking about the government is funded by the people. That means me, that means you will pay for it. So how does it make any sense? Like I said, it would have been more reasonable to have the former slave owner pay the slave when reparations would have been due, which is at the end of slavery, not right now. It makes no sense. This whole argument, it's no logic here.
America's never even studied the effects of slavery on black people. They've never sat down and said, we know that as a government we sanction this experience, but we don't even know how far that experience reaches because no one's ever studied it. How much do we? The government has literally buried its head, it's paid out everybody else, and turned its back on the black people in America who have given so much to want to just strive to be a part of this country, and with their blood, sweat, and tears.
They paid the money when it was
whether it's 150 years, that's irrelevant. The point is the effects are still there. They need to be studied.
200 years, 300 years, 5,000 years, how long are we going to continue the narrative? At what point do we say we're past slavery?
We're going to stop it now because the buck stops here. Hopefully my generation will stand up and say that the buck stops here, so we don't have to go on with this any longer.
I know that there's a lot of disagreement, both about whether it should be done and if it were done, how it would be done. And I'm not naive about that. But I do think that that dark cloud still hangs over our country. I believe that we ought to move forward in the 21st century as one nation with one destiny. And that until that issue is resolved, until that original sin is addressed, we may think that we're moving forward as one nation, and I don't think that we ever really will.
We're back. I want to give a shout out to Dan Calloway for that presentation right there. And we're going to try to do a continuation on it, probably our next show or something like that. So stay tuned for that. If not, the topic of the show, you can follow up on it, Dan Calloway. This is about the ending of our show. And so those screen shares, was right on point, each one of them dealing with reparation. We hit up on Detroit, hollering at our folks in Detroit with reparation too. And I want to give a shout out to my family in Detroit, give a shout out to my family in San Antonio, Texas. Everybody out here and stuff like that. What's up? And yeah, so I hope, that everybody that y'all, enjoy, the topic of what we're dealing with, man, get on point with it, and let's represent this here, as a whole group of people. Come on with it, DJ.
Yeah, and I want to thank y'all for watching, and I want to give a shout out to my family on the West Coast. I want to give a shout out to all of my fans who have been playing and streaming my music. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, we got the Money in Black Lives Matter t-shirt thing going on. All right. And my music has been going great. I just released a new album, The Best of DJ Hard, this too. You can find it on Bandcamp. Matter of fact, it's only on Bandcamp. But the songs was motivated by the songs that made the top 10 list of #1 music. And so, boom, you know, I said, okay, that's a great idea for an album, putting all of my great songs into one collection. All right. Yeah. And so, and I want to thank all of my people in Shreveport, Louisiana that's interested in this show. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I mean, because, hey, look, freedom of speech is something that you got to use, man. Freedom of the press is something that you got to use. I mean, you just can't talk about it. You got to be about it. So, I mean, leave them comments, and comments is important. We want to know your thoughts. You know, put reparation into your conversation. It would be excellent if some of these people were running for political office would put it into their conversation and let us know your ideas of what you got on your mind for as reparation is concerned in Los Angeles and the state of California. If you want to participate with CJEC, that's California for a just and Equitable California. Yeah, they got a website going on. I mean, look them up. I'm going to leave some information about all of the references that we refer to, along with some information about CJEC, so you can leave your testimony. I mean, you can. They want to hear. The government want to hear from you. All right. So you can write your statement however you want to do it. They got several different ways where you can get your voice in there or your words in there. All right. So participate. This is America. That's what it's all about. You know, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. And this is why we need black media. I mean, who's black media? Us. Behind
like that. Behind the scene with the OG. We right here for you. We bringing it to you. You know what I'm saying? All you got to do is just jump on the bandwagon, because that's where you're supposed to be. I want to give a shout out to all the political prisoners. I mean, you know what I'm saying, be missing out on them sometime, but I got to get it in, you know what I'm saying, every chance I get to think about it. And also, Mini Bike Legacy. If you want to ride, style, and profile, you know what I'm saying, you know what's up. Hit me up, you know what I'm saying, get you on a bike. And also, San Antonio, Texas. My son's company is United Riders. I think I got the name right. You know what I'm saying? If I don't, you know, I'll straighten it out next time. But with that, coming to, you know what I'm saying, the end of our show. And, you know what I'm saying, hope that the message was delivered to where, you know what I'm saying, it interests somebody. So, you know what I'm saying, share, like, and, you know what I'm saying, we still, you know what I'm saying, striving for some more subscribers. We ain't going nowhere. We're going to be right here, you know what I'm saying? So I might as well, you know what I'm saying, jump in on it with us and subscribe to our show.
Well, look, it's been a great show. Thank you very much for watching. We're going to wrap this thing on up and say good night. And look, I'm going to tell you like I've been telling you. Please don't drive drunk. That's an accident that can be avoided. All right. Good night. And thank you for watching.
It's our money, and we need it now. Reparation.
Reparations now.
Right on. Bam.
Right.